Everyone's talking about stablecoins, like they're just another checkbox in the crypto space. USDT, USDC, DAI, toss RLUSD into the pile, right? Wrong. Because Ripple's RLUSD isn't a coin. It's a calculated disruption. A full-scale offensive on the outdated machinery of global finance. And while the crypto crowd debates prices and market caps, Ripple just quietly redefined the playing field, not by shouting louder, but by embedding itself into the very system most projects claim to rebel against. This wasn't just a product launch. This was a chess move, planned years in advance, positioned at the exact intersection of regulation, speed, and global payment infrastructure. And if you're not paying attention, you'll completely miss what just happened. Because RLUSD isn't just backed by dollars. It's backed by legitimacy, by regulatory clarity hard-won in court, by the invisible handshake between Ripple and the very institutions shaping the future of money. From FedNow to the BIS to central banks quietly exploring integration. This isn't about digital assets fighting the system anymore. This is about one of them becoming the system. While others are begging for access, Ripple is quietly becoming the rail they'll all have to use. And RLUSD is the key that unlocks that takeover. If you think this is just another stable coin, you're watching the wrong layer of the game. Because Ripple isn't here to win the crypto race. They're here to replace the infrastructure and run the rails every other coin will be forced to ride on. The question isn't whether RLUSD will succeed. The question is, how much of the future will Ripple end up owning? So before we dig deeper into what RLUSD really is, what it's connected to, and why this move just shook the global monetary system quietly but completely, do this now. Like this video so it reaches the people still sleeping on Ripple. Subscribe so you don't miss the next wave of moves playing out behind the scenes. Drop a comment below if you've been tracking this, or if this just flipped your perspective. And most importantly, share this with someone who still thinks Ripple is just another altcoin. Because what's coming next? You're going to want front row seats. RLUSD, not just a launch, a line in the sand. Most stablecoins launch with the same pitch, backed by real dollars. Fast, cheap, pegged to the USD. It's the same tired song with a slightly different beat. But when Ripple launched RLUSD, they weren't entering the market to compete. They were making a statement, one that very few people fully understood. This wasn't about grabbing market share from Tether or Circle. This was about establishing a new standard, one that doesn't play by the rules of crypto Twitter, but by the rules of central banks, settlement systems, and global finance. RLUSD didn't show up to fit in. It showed up to formalize Ripple's pivot from crypto disruptor to regulated infrastructure provider. Because let's be honest, the stablecoin space is broken. It's a patchwork of half-compliant, opaque systems mostly serving traders, not economies. Ripple looked at that landscape and asked, what if a stablecoin was built for the institutions first? So they didn't just announce a dollar-backed asset. They unveiled a fully regulated enterprise-grade payment instrument, one designed from the ground up to comply with U.S. financial law, integrate with existing banking rails, and slot directly into systems like FedNow and global interbank networks. This wasn't a stablecoin launch. It was a regulatory power play, one that leveraged Ripple's years of court battles, legal positioning, and global partnerships to do what no one else in crypto has done at scale. Blend compliance and innovation into a single digital asset. Because here's what makes RLUSD different. It's not backed by promises. It's backed by audited reserves in U.S. banks. It's not aimed at speculation. It's designed for real-world liquidity. And it's not for everyone. It's for governments, financial institutions, and regulated partners looking for something that can bridge legacy finance with blockchain rails without breaking the rules. Most coins are built to bypass the system. RLUSD was built to run alongside it and eventually inside it. It's Ripple staking its claim. We're not here to challenge the old rails anymore. We are the upgrade. Regulatory muscle, Ripple's Trojan horse. In crypto, regulation is usually seen as the enemy, a roadblock, an obstacle that slows innovation and silences the underdogs. But Ripple made regulation their competitive advantage. They did something no other major crypto company dared to do. They walked straight into the storm and came out with the blueprint. For years, Ripple was in the crosshairs of the SEC. Lawsuit after lawsuit. Fines, delays, uncertainty. And while most projects would have either folded or fled offshore, Ripple stood its ground. They didn't just fight back. They absorbed the blows, learned the rules, and positioned themselves as the first battle-tested, semi-regulator-approved entity in the crypto space. That lawsuit wasn't just a courtroom drama. It was a positioning play. And now, RLUSD is the payoff. Because this stablecoin didn't just come with compliance. It came with a paper trail of regulatory resilience. And that's exactly what banks, payment networks, and governments need to move forward in the digital age. While other stablecoin issuers tiptoe around definitions, Ripple launched RLUSD with clarity. They're not operating in the gray. They're planting a flag in the regulated zone and saying, "We're not here to fight the system. We're here to replace the part of it that no longer works, and we're doing it legally." This matters more than most realize. Because when the global financial system inevitably digitizes, it won't adopt the projects that rebelled against it. It will adopt the ones that played the long game, the ones that built with regulators not in spite of them. RLUSD is Ripple's Trojan horse. It looks like a simple stablecoin on the surface, but beneath that surface is a decade of legal groundwork, institutional trust, and a bridge directly into the banking layer that cryptos never had real access to, until now. And here's the kicker. This isn't about Ripple becoming compliant. It's about Ripple becoming necessary. When regulators, banks, and policymakers look across the fragmented stablecoin market and ask, who can we trust to power the digital dollar? Ripple will already be in the room, and RLUSD will already be on the table. FedNow, BIS, and the quiet infrastructure coup. Let's step back for a second. While the world was busy watching Bitcoin ETFs, meme coins, and on-chain drama, Ripple was doing something far more dangerous. They were plugging themselves into the bloodstream of global finance. Quietly, strategically, deliberately. Let's start with FedNow, the US government's real-time payment network. A system designed to move money 24/7, instantly, across banks and institutions. This isn't a crypto startup stream. It's a federal infrastructure project. And yet, the timing of RLUSD's launch almost perfectly syncs with FedNow's expansion. Coincidence? Not a chance. Ripple has spent years building relationships with financial institutions, payment providers, and central banks. And guess what kind of digital asset FedNow and the banks it serves will eventually need? Not some offshore token floating in regulatory limbo. They'll need a compliant, reliable, US-based digital dollar that integrates seamlessly into both the legacy system and the blockchain future. That's RLUSD. And it goes deeper. Ripple has been a long-time partner in dialogues with the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, the central bank of central banks. They've participated in CBDC trials, payment standard discussions, and interoperability frameworks that no meme coin will ever be invited to. While the public narrative painted Ripple as a remittance company, they were quietly aligning themselves with the global monetary elite. Because BIS doesn't care about market caps. They care about systemic integration, legal clarity, and cross-border liquidity. Ripple fits that mold. RLUSD makes them usable. Think about this. What if Ripple's real goal wasn't mass retail adoption? What if it was to become the plumbing behind central bank payment systems? To provide the rails that CBDCs and commercial banks will ride on? Because when central banks issue digital currencies, they won't be building wallets, exchanges, or liquidity bridges from scratch. They'll look for infrastructure partners. And right now, Ripple is positioning RLUSD to be the default bridge. Between CBDCs, between banks, between jurisdictions. This is the infrastructure coup no one's paying attention to. A quiet, legal, and precise insertion into the financial backend that powers the real world. While most crypto projects are busy fighting over protocols and tokens, Ripple is focused on something else. Becoming the infrastructure layer everyone will eventually rely on, whether they know it or not. And RLUSD? That's not a coin. It's the connective tissue between the blockchain world and the traditional system. Not a revolution, an upgrade, and the global banking system is already testing the download. This isn't about a token, it's a takeover. Let's get something straight. This conversation isn't about whether RLUSD is better than USDT or USDC. It's not about market cap, yield farming, or which chain it launches on, because that's the surface-level noise most people are stuck in. RLUSD isn't trying to be the next stablecoin. It's trying to be the last one that matters. Why? Because Ripple doesn't care about winning the token race. They're building the racetrack. While the rest of the market is obsessed with coins, Ripple is obsessed with control of the rails, the back-end infrastructure, the settlement layers, the hidden plumbing that moves trillions, not memes. And RLUSD is their Trojan horse. A simple-looking stablecoin on the outside, but underneath, it's a passport, giving Ripple access to a future where value, compliance, and global liquidity all converge. Here's what most people don't realize. In 5 years, the winning stablecoin won't be the one with the loudest community. It'll be the one that sits inside regulated systems, speaks the same language as central banks, and connects seamlessly to FedNow, Swift alternatives, and CBDC networks. That's not DeFi. That's strategic capture. Ripple isn't trying to disrupt the system anymore. They're trying to replace the inefficient parts of it and make themselves too integrated to ignore. And with RLUSD, they've finally found the perfect delivery mechanism. Just look at what this one asset unlocks. Instant settlement across banks and borders, on-chain liquidity for institutions, regulatory comfort for governments, a bridge between public and private finance. That's not just another token. That's an operating system for value. And the longer the market treats RLUSD like it's some side project, the deeper Ripple digs itself into the foundation of tomorrow's monetary system. By the time the world realizes what's happened, Ripple won't be competing with other crypto firms. They'll be providing services to them. Because the game isn't about who builds the next coin. It's about who owns the infrastructure that all coins have to pass through. Ripple saw that early. And RLUSD is the final piece in a decade-long plan to quietly shift from crypto company to financial rail provider on a global scale. The quiet takeover has already begun. Let's be clear. Ripple's launch of RLUSD wasn't just a product release. It was a carefully orchestrated event. A digital flag planted at the crossroads of regulation, infrastructure, and global finance. It didn't scream for attention. It didn't need to, because when you're building the rails, you don't shout, you integrate, and that's exactly what just happened. While most of the crypto space was chasing token trends, viral memes, and yield farming opportunities, Ripple was positioning itself behind the curtain, right where the real power flows, in the corridors of banks, payment processors, and global regulators. RLUSD is not about the now. It's about the next decade, the next architecture, the next generation of financial movement, where the rules won't be written by exchanges, influencers, or DeFi protocols, but by the quiet alliances between compliant blockchains and the institutions they once hoped to disrupt. That's the real play, and Ripple is no longer waiting to be accepted. They're building something too vital to be excluded. So here's what you need to understand. RLUSD is Ripple's pass into a new class of players. Central banks, clearinghouses, global networks. It's the first real attempt at a regulator-approved, enterprise-grade digital dollar. And more importantly, it's a signal that Ripple is no longer aiming to be a participant in the system. They're aiming to run it. And by the time most people catch on, it'll be too late to position themselves in front of the change. The headlines won't tell you this story. The token trackers won't show you this shift. But if you're paying attention, really paying attention, you'll see it. Ripple is not chasing the future. They're becoming the infrastructure that powers it. And RLUSD is only the beginning. So now the ball's in your court. If this video challenged how you see the space, if it gave you a wider lens, if you felt that chill when it clicked that Ripple isn't launching coins, they're laying down tracks, then here's what to do. Like this video so the algorithm knows people are ready for deeper conversations. Comment below, what's your take? Is this a genius move or a dangerous centralization play? Let's talk. Subscribe right now because we're not just tracking the headlines, we're unpacking the long game most investors are blind to. And above all, share this video with someone who still thinks Ripple is just about cross-border remittances. Because the truth is, Ripple was never here to make noise. They were here to change how the entire system moves. And with RLUSD, they just flipped the first major switch. This isn't just the future of Ripple. This is the blueprint for the next evolution of money. And the takeover? It's already begun.